I'm really happy the Rams didn't get Micah.
Out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, what kind?
Live from the RamCave, I'm Joseph Rosian, and this is RamView, the August 29th, 2025 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at Temple City Auto Repair.com. Okay, season's about to start. College football season kicked off last night. Micah Parsons got traded. Cowboys are in the doldrums. It's the happiest August 29th of my memory, even though I'm back from vacation. And I just want to say this. Let's get this out of the way. I would root for the Russians against Ohio State. I would root for the Russians against Ohio State. So I am not too thrilled about the Buckeyes, their success or anything. So go Texas, go Arch Manning. I hope they crush the Buckeyes. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's just how I feel. Kickstarter there, USA Expat. Well, I think I did. There we go. Guys, thanks for clicking on USA Expat. Appreciate you being here. Everyone else who's clicked in. Steve Ramirez having dinner at Northview's Tilt. Oh, okay. How is La Habra these days? I don't hear much about them anymore. I'm Russian, so thanks for the support. Okay, there you go. All right. Let's get to this USA Expat. Steve, thanks for stopping in. Let's get to this. USA Expat brought it up. Question answered about the Rams rivalry unis. We knew this in advance. You didn't have to be Nostradamus to figure it out, right? You could have the eyesight of Mr. Magoo to know they were going to suck. It is clear the Rams went the Cracker Barrel Bud Light route for advice on how not to enhance their brand, and I don't think it could be any worse. What's unique about those jerseys? What stands out about those jerseys, except they look like every other stupid, dumb butt jersey that's produced nowadays? Instead of embracing your history, instead of doing something that would gin up deep-rooted support, roots that would go deep as opposed to stay at the ground level, a little borrowing from scripture there. Those roots plant for a while, but they're usually overcome if your team is not winning or something doesn't go your way. Those are the fans the Rams are always cultivating when it's the West Side they want, but it should be the East Side and the San Gabriel Valley they should be going after. Yeah, and in the San Fernando as well. There you go. Let's just knock out some of these Ram points real quick. I agree. I think it was Demoff that said it. Perhaps the deepest Ram team since returning to LA, and that's the truth. You had Cooper Kupp in his prime. You had Todd Gurley. You had Aaron Donald. But the depth of this Ram team is amazing. Yeah. Remember the gold the Rams struck with C.J. Anderson in 2018, right? There really wasn't much on the roster behind Todd Gurley in those days. Look who Matthew Stafford was throwing to in the Super Bowl if it wasn't Cooper Kupp in 2021. And look at that wide receiver room now. I would challenge you to tell me where there's no depth on this roster. This doesn't mean they're going to win the Super Bowl, but this is a team that can suffer an injury and they'll still be a playoff team. Even if Matthew Stafford goes down, this is a team that could still make the playoffs. Some of those other teams, you think if Jared Goff had gone down in 2018, 2017, Rams would have made the playoffs? No, they wouldn't have, right? So Demoff on this case is right. Chris Shula gave the answers about Troy Reeder that we all expected, just like we knew about the jerseys going to suck. We all knew what it was. Troy Reeder is comfort food. As Steve Ramirez said, he's the meatloaf at Golden Corral that Steve enjoys. He's the Jack in the Box tacos that I used to get all the time when I didn't know what to do when I was hungry. It was comfort food. Troy Reeder's comfort food. They're talking about him transitioning to the coaching staff. We knew this. And I will say this, the Rams are cutthroat. The Rams are not going to keep anybody because they have a depth of feeling for them. So they have a feeling for Troy Reeder in the sense that he still helps them. And this is not necessarily a charity case. And there's probably stuff we don't know about Poopaw that they discovered that, they weren't really hot on. And that's why everybody moved on. Let's look at some of this stuff here. USA expat Parsons to Green Bay. Glad Seattle and Arizona have to play Green Bay this season. Yeah, it's really weird. It's the first time this decade the Rams haven't played the Packers. Maybe in the playoffs they'll see them. Yeah, that's great that those guys have to play them. I think it's fantastic. Huge no gracias for me on the new Nike unis. We're right there. Per team practice photos, looks like Forbes is with the number ones. I think so, but I really don't care. It's who's getting the most snaps. We'll look at those snaps after every game, and we'll see who's in there in the fourth, right? And I love it. We had, was it in 2018? You had Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters, Nickel Roby-Coleman, who should have a statue built for him for what he did in New Orleans and got away with. But I like these first four guys the Rams have. I like them all. And I'm not going to freak out if they're starting. I like them all. And so there's a lot of depth there. Kickstarter. Steve. Okay, let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Rob, Steeler fan Rob. Packers and Eagles in the NFC Championship. Well, Steeler fan Rob, apparently you didn't see Colin Cowherd this morning, which was Cowherd's on vacation, was J-Mac. I'm sitting at my desk, and J-Mac pretty much said it's going to be the 49ers and the Packers in the NFC Championship game. So come on, man. Steeler fan Rob, you got to go with what J-Mac said. ESG, good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us. Green Bay. Oh, you're reading my thoughts, Chief. Green Bay paid way too much for someone who doesn't show up in the playoffs and doesn't like to go up against the run. Oh, we will have a great conversation. Yeah, I've got stuff there. Brian Smith, heard Poopaw had a second-round draft grade that fell to us. And, the Rams moved up to get him, too. I'm not anti-Pooh. I don't know any reason to be anti-Poopaw, except McSneed is anti-Poopaw, and they moved off of him. Again, until we hear something different, in McSneed, we trust. Thanks for coming on, Brian. Michael Negretti, PJ, Pastor Joe, if the Cowboys are tearing down, their team should Rams get Dak Prescott? Ooh, no. We don't want Dak Prescott anywhere near the Rams, right? We want him quarterbacking in Frisco. We want him quarterbacking in Dallas, right? We want him quarterbacking in Philly. We want him quarterbacking the Chargers because I want the Chargers to go back to San Diego. But no, we don't want Dak Prescott anywhere near us, nor his 61 rocks. Ooh. Newsweek wrote an article. I'm just asking. Don't get mad. Oh, I should have read everything you wrote there. Sorry, my bad. Brian Smith, Dolak for Pooh is a wash. Yeah, the Rams have a habit now of making a fifth-round pick a premium pick. So it's news when a Brennan Jackson gets put in the street or a Poopaw gets put in the street. But you're right. You counter it with an Omar Spates last year, and you counter it with a Sean Dolak this year as a UDFA. Also, you counter it with a Jalen McCullough, UDFA. You counter it with a Josh Wallace, a UDFA. And the seventh-round pick, or the Mr. Irrelevant in the seventh round, Deshaun Johnson. So, yeah, I think people are wanting to make this a big whiff for the Rams, and I don't think it is. I think we're right on the money there, Mr. Smith. USA Expat, even if the Niners make the playoffs, they are not a playoff team. I just can't see the 49ers making the playoffs. I just can't. I know everyone's talking about the schedule. There's nothing that's chump worthy of the NFC West. And then they got to play Tampa Bay. They got to play these other teams that by the time they get to them, these old guys, they're saying, oh, Trent Williams matching up against Micah Parsons in the playoffs. Is Trent Williams going to be in uniform after week 12, right? Is Christian McCaffrey going to be playing after week 12? I just don't see what everyone's all worked up about. And they got to get by Seattle. They got to get by Arizona. And they got to get by us. And I think they're going to be a dangerous team. You have to respect them. But Yeah, I don't get that. I do not get that. Brian Smith, Dak makes 60 rocks per year. Don't think the Rams would do that. No, neither do I. Manny Vasquez, let the 49ers make the playoffs so the Rams have the pleasure of knocking them off. I guess it's just my problem with that is they come to SoFi and the awful Ram fans that the club caters to, that they appeal to, that they're dying for their affection, will all sell their tickets, and we'll see another red wave in SoFi and have to deal with all that and hear about all that again. I'm thinking with the 49ers, I'm thinking the answer that the possessed Reagan gave Father Karras about the devil gave to Father Karras about Reagan. What do you want to have happen here? And my answer is the same. I want the 49ers to rot and lie stinking in the earth. I don't want to see them in the playoffs. I want them to suffer, right? There we go. Suffer some more. That's what to the pain means. Let's see. Rams 2.5-point favorite over Houston. I'll talk about them real quick here. USA expat Brian Smith. Seattle's D could be a concern. I think their secondary is really developed. I think they really got to count on was it Leonard Williams? I hope I said that right. His name escapes me. Leonard Williams had a great year last year, but in year 10, year 11, is he going to hold up? Jerron Reed, and then of course find out, is Byron Murphy a player in the NFL, or is he a little bit overrated from where he was drafted? And then I'm not completely sold on their edge. They got guys that can get after it, and we'll see. I think they're good. And I hear people picking them anywhere from first place to last place. And I think people are more critical of the Seahawks and Rams than they are of the 49ers. And I'm stunned. I am stunned. Micah Gutierrez. I'd rather see the 49ers go 0-17 than ever want them to make the playoffs. There we go. That's the kind of sugar daddy likes. Brian Smith. Micah, oh God, no. They'd get multiple picks to trade down from number one, especially if Arch comes out. I'm down. I'm out. We're out of that business. Okay. Speaking of the Texans, we're going to get to Micah Parsons here in a second. Speaking of the Texans, that's all my eyes are focused on right now in regards to the Rams. Soon as that game ends, my encouragement, and I know you guys know this, I don't have to tell you this. I hope I'm not sounding pedantic or talking or high-roading you guys. I got to tell you, of course, I'm going to watch the NFC West, but my eye watching that Texans game is going to be on the scoreboard, and the first highlights I want to see are the Titans, what they did in week 1, because that's who the Rams are playing in week 2, and we want to see what they look like. But the Texans right now are starting a rookie at left tackle. Right now, if it was to be today, they're starting a rookie at left tackle. Jake Andrews, a center who was cut by the Patriots, who hasn't played a down since 2023. One of the guards is Laken Tomlinson, who in the last 4 years, the Seahawks, Jets, and 49ers have all moved off of. 49ers need huge help, and they let him go. Jets let him go. And the Seahawks, he played there last year, they let him go. That tells you about Laken Tomlinson. And the other guy is Ed Ingram, who had 3 years in Minnesota, and the Vikings moved off of him. And here's the thing. Ed Ingram was in Minnesota last year, and the Vikings didn't even start him against the Rams in the playoffs. So maybe he was hurt, but he didn't see the field. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you about the offensive line of the Texans? Now, people are getting all worked up about Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. I think the Rams, one, on the offensive side of the ball, are able to pound holes through the center of that Texans line, so it's not going to be an issue. And then I think they're not going to be able to hold back the Rams' defense. I think they're going to feast. C.J. Stroud's going to have to make plays, and not run an offense, but make plays, those kind of splash plays that Kyler Murray makes. And so I like the Rams by 2 possessions. That could be 14 points. That could be 10 points, right? But I like the Rams by 2 possessions at home against the Texans. That's what I'm feeling here. All right. Of course, then we got to get to around the NFL and other places.
Stay in your lane, bro.
I am in my lane. We're talking about the NFL, and we're going to talk some college football as well. Let's see some articles, some comments here. Brian Smith, Arch to Dallas or New Orleans. Man, New Orleans, either one of those places, right? Right? Isn't it funny? Dallas, man, could you imagine if a Manning came out and said, no, we're not playing for Dallas? Yeah, like, rightfully Eli said in regards to the Chargers, I ain't playing for the Chargers. If the Mannings came out and says, nah, Arch ain't playing for the Cowboys, right? And who would argue with that, right? Who would argue with that? Michael Negretti, Pastor Joe, Newsweek wrote an article about the Rams trading with Browns for cornerback Greg Newsome, the second for a fifth-round pick. What do you think? Absolutely not. No. I think Newsweek's looking for some hits and clicks. And nope, absolutely not. Did you notice what the Rams didn't do? The Rams didn't sign a big-time free agent at corner. The Rams didn't draft a big-time corner. Darius Williams was on this roster last year. Kobe Durant was on this roster last year. Akilla Witherspoon was on this roster last year. Josh Wallace was on this roster last year. The Rams made their move for 2026 last December when they signed Emmanuel Forbes. And if the rest of Rams media had been here with us, they would have known it. But, they'll find us eventually. There we go. Let's see. Tim Burns, Titans won't win 6 games. You know what? I don't know. But yeah, I still want to know what they're going to do. I like Cam Ward. I do. USA expat. Plus, we like the scoreboard telling us that Atlanta lost. Yes. And they're without their right tackle. And their quarterback is a southpaw. So that's kind of exciting. Michael Negretti, Pastor Joe, correction. It was the Sea Chickens, not the Seahawks. Okay. Got you, Mr. Negretti. Micah Gutierrez. I'll also keep an eye on the Falcons all season to see where the other first-round picks end up. Thank you very much. Manuel Vasquez. Rams D-line is going to come out strong and dominate the Texans and set the tone for the year. I agree. I absolutely agree. Arch to Saints seems kismet. I would call that a dark kismet for Arch Manning. I would call that a dark kismet at this point. I'm expecting a Saints fire sale, and they should have done it already, but I'm curious to see what they're going to do. You can't be seriously trying to sell tickets with Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shugg. And they've already put Jake Hayner in the street. Remember, Jake Hayner was a name that you heard people speculating the Rams might want to take in the 4th round. And I think some of us were more interested and intrigued by that than we were about Stetson Bennett. But oh my. Tim Burns and Brian Smith agree. There we go on Arch. Bill, good to hear from you, Bill. How many games will the Falcons win in 2025 or 2026? I think they're going to win 8 to 9. They might steal one from the Bucs, but I like the Buccaneers in the AFC South. Manuel Vasquez. Rams will be relatively healthy to start the season, which I'm looking forward to after the last couple of years. Yeah, I want to see where they're at halftime. Do you remember halftime of that Detroit game last year? It was like, oh, yeah, by the way, who was it? Who went out? Jonah Jackson's out. Steve Avila's out. Puka went out. It's like, man, that was a brutal game. And then here's the thing. Okay, so, was it Kobe Durant dropped the interception in the 4th quarter that might have given the Rams a chance to seal that game against Detroit? Then it goes into OT, and Montgomery shoves it down our throat. All right, that happens. Next week, there's either a hangover or it's a trap game in Arizona, and they get absolutely smoked by the Cardinals in the Valley of the Sun. But I got to tell you, it wasn't the loss in Detroit that bothered me, and it wasn't the loss in Arizona that bugged me. And yes, it was upsetting to see the injuries, but what bugged me the most, as the team was certainly going to be 0-2 and by the time the 4th quarter rolled around, what really bugged me the most was McVay leaving Stafford in that game after all those injuries. At that point, I think it's perfectly fine to rail on McVay. Call him shorty, call him smartest guy in the room, just get all over his case. I cannot believe him and Snead saw eye to eye on anything like that. Absolutely preposterous. In a game you're losing, 40-14, 42-10, whatever the score was to that game in the 4th quarter. Why is Matthew Stafford still in that game? Why? Without Alaric Jackson, who was missing the first 2 games, without Steve Avila, right? Without Jonah Jackson. Well, what are you doing, Chief? What are you thinking? And that's what I don't want to see. Yeah, health is the key to the season. Very much so, Mr. Smith. Bill, do you think Xavier Smith overtakes Atwell before the season ends? You know, the Rams got $10 million. $10 million. I'm going to guess it was Sean McVay talking to McSnead and then having a brief conversation with Kroenke or something. And because Kroenke's got to be asking, you don't even play this guy. I will say this again. The problem with Tutu Atwell is Sean McVay. It's not Tutu Atwell. Atwell has demonstrated the ability to get open. He's demonstrated the ability to go deep. He's demonstrated the ability to draw pass interference calls, and he's demonstrated solid hands. McVay can't seem to get him on the field, right? And I don't know what that is, right? I don't know. And it's especially weird that you couldn't find time for him in the last couple games of the season, but yet you gave him 10 rocks to stay. I believe there are other teams salivating for an opportunity to grab Tutu Atwell. And would as Patton said with gasoline, you give me gasoline, I'll kill Germans with that gasoline. As some other team is probably saying, get me Tutu Atwell and I'll kill Germans with Tutu Atwell. You know what I'm saying? Is that I don't know what the problem is, but it's McVay's problem. I don't want to hear anymore, oh, we could have gotten Creed Humphrey. I don't want to hear that anymore. I don't want to hear that Atwell is a bust. He's had over 40 catches the last 2 years, playing behind some really good receivers. He's also filled in real well when other receivers have been hurt. Okay, he was also a comfort blanket to Stafford on those deep outs that no one could cover. It was almost automatic on those 10 to 12 yard deep outs to the sideline. The problem with Tutu Atwell is Sean McVay, and so that one. I'm not such a homer about, and I don't like hearing how bad Atwell is. I just think you got to find a way to use him, but if he doesn't fit in your scheme, then you got to find a way to move him. Why would you give him 10 million rocks? I don't get it. I just don't get it. I'm a little passionate about that one, but I like Xavier Smith, Bill. I do. I like Xavier Smith a lot. Did you see we know he can return the ball, safe hands returning the ball, but did you see the catches he made? The catches now a catch is a catch, right? Hands, manos de pegamento, hands of glue, have nothing to do whether there's a third string cornerback on you or a first string cornerback on you. He's making one-handed catches. He's climbing the ladder downfield to catch some of those Bennett throws. I like Xavier Smith a lot, and I'm glad he's still here. And I'm glad Brenton Covey has gone back to Philly. So there we go. Did I get a little worked up on that one? How many more wins for the Packers after the trade? I'm not a Micah Parsons fan. I think he's really good. I don't think he's elite. He's the Eric Karros of sacks, right? I've said this before to you guys, so forgive me for repeating it. Eric Karros played, 10 years as the Dodgers first baseman, had like 6 years of over 20 home runs. Always had good numbers, but no one can remember a big home run Eric Karros ever hit, right? And the same thing with Micah Parsons. When you look at his sack totals, he gets fat off the teams that you should get fat off of, right? And I look at the game where he needed to make a difference. That was the game against the Packers in the first round of 2023 when that young Packer team went in there. And the dude made no difference. Maybe he does. I could be wrong. He's a great talent, but I don't think he's a great player. And I think there could be. I don't know if he moves the needle. I really don't know. And yeah, I just don't. Thomas Wilson. I'm predicting the Rams will win 14 plus games. You're talking 15-2. From your mouth to the football god's small g's ears, that would be awesome. 15-2. That means there's no hiccup games. That means there's no brain freeze games, right? Which Rams always stick one in there. Micah Gutierrez, I have to ask, but I think I know your answer. What do you think of the rivalry for uniforms? I think they should send them to Hamas. I can't stand them. Can't stand them. ESG, Micah Parsons stat pads sacks. I think he gets a lot of empty calorie sacks. Absolutely. Tim Burns, Parsons gets his dozen sacks in the cold versus Texas. Makes no difference to me. It won't get G-Bay out of the wild card game. GB, we're talking about Green Bay. The Lions are going to come back to the pack a little bit. I think the Lions are going to win that division. I don't see Super Bowl with Green Bay, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, right? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if they get to the Super Bowl, I might root for them. I'd like to see Jordan Love win. Thank you. Those uniforms are horrible. Yes, they are. All right. Let's keep rolling here around the NFL and other places. Okay, so let me read the notes I had here on Micah Parsons. Delta Green Bay. Who wins the deal between Green Bay and Dallas? Well, the winner here is Micah Parsons because he gets 47 rocks per year over the next 4 years. Loser in the long run, I think, is the 49ers. I'm sorry, is the Packers, because Parsons is good, not great. And he messes with their salary cap budget because him being there now kind of ruins the window. Like right now, you look at the Rams have a 2-year window. They have this year and next year before they got to start playing their guys. Parsons kind of accelerates that Green Bay window that they got to do it now, right? And they might not be able to down the road. So they got to win now. I looked at this. They're free agents next year. Now, these guys aren't legendary Hall of Famers, but Devontae Wyatt, interior defensive lineman, Quay Walker, linebacker, they're free agents next year. So you're going to have to sign them. And they just gave, a year or so ago, Rashawn Gary, the other edge guy, who turns 28 this year, they just gave him a fat contract. And he's okay, right? He's not, I mean, do you hear Rashawn Gary's name come up too often? He's good, but is he great? And they're paying Rashawn Gary 25 rocks this year, 28 next year, and 31 rocks. This is his cap hit, 31 rocks the year after that in 2028, I think it is, 2027. So that's a lot of bread invested in your two edge guys, and neither one of them has those big moments, right? That's a lot of hope. So I don't like it, right? Now, it's easy to go back and say the losers in the long run are the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I would say on the surface, they made out well, right? The UCLA defensive lineman they got in the deal, okay, that's not bad, okay? But they got the 2 first-round picks. So they got first-round picks in the 2026 draft and 2027 draft. And Jerry Jones was right. You know, there could be something analogous here to the Herschel Walker deal, which that kind of changed the world for the Cowboys. But here's the problem, right? Where they lose in this trade is not by what they acquired, right? They got 2 first-round picks, a competent defensive lineman, right? Better than Mozzie Smith out of Michigan, who I honked for a couple years ago. Thank goodness we missed him. And they saved all that money giving it to Micah Parsons. Good for the Cowboys. But here's where they'll fail. Jimmy Johnson's not going to be there to help make those picks. Jerry Jones will be making those picks. Maybe even Stephen Jones, who apparently doesn't know how to correct his father or doesn't know anything more than his father does. They'll be making those picks. And disaster, right? That's why the Cowboys are going to lose this trade. Parsons will have a good year, solid year or two up there in Green Bay. Maybe they make the playoffs. He makes a couple of conspicuous plays, but it's going to hurt their budget when it comes to re-signing maybe a Romeo Dobbs in a year or so and some of those other guys. That's why they drafted Matthew Golden. Zach Tom, I think, is going to be a free agent pretty soon. So it's going to escalate that window up there in Green Bay, but they'll be competitive. And Green Bay is always going to be good because they're going to get their UDFAs and they're going to draft well. Cowboys aren't. And so it's just going to be bad, right? And it's just going to be bad. And that's the thing you got to deal with, right? So Green Bay's taking a huge swing. Audentes Fortuna, you what? fortune favors the foolish, right? And fortune favors the bold. There you go. Sorry about that, but it's true. And so that's how I feel about that deal. I think there's real trouble there for the Packers in terms of long term, and then there's trouble for the Cowboys in the immediate because Jerry Jones is going to be making those picks, right? So yeah, that's how I looked at that trade. Let's see what else you guys got here. ESG, I think the Packers jumped too early on Jordan Love after that blowout win versus Dallas in the playoffs. You know, that's a tough one. I hear what you're saying, ESG, because last year was so up and down, but he was banged up. I hear what you're saying. But, man, wouldn't it be really hard not to fall in love for what the Packers, that young Packer team, did in Dallas a couple of years ago in the playoffs? They had no business winning that game. None whatsoever. And they did. And then they went to Green Bay. I mean, they went to Frisco and put a scare on the 49ers. And I could see falling for the kid, right? I could totally see falling for the kid. Is it going to pay off? I don't know. But I hear what you're saying. Definitely, ESG. Tim Burns, rivalry jerseys brought to you by Cracker Barrel. There you go. There we go. But from what I'm hearing in Rams media is everyone loves them. All right, whatever. Forgotten Locale, thank you for joining us. What do the guaranteed years look like on Rashawn Gary? I did not do my homework there. What I looked at was just what was it? I just looked at what the cap hit was because there's all kinds of things factoring in there, performance, bonuses and all that stuff. I just looked at what his cap hit was. It's significant up through next year. It's a pretty significant dead cap up through next year. I don't know what 2027 looks like, but through next year, it is pretty significant. And again, I'm not saying Gary's bad, but I guess I got to do a deeper dive. Is he better than Byron Young? Byron Young's cheaper, and Byron Young makes plays. Manny Vasquez, Parsons is not a good run defender, and now Kenny Clark, I was going to call him Kenny Young, who's a huge clog in the middle, away, they're going to expose him. There's something to be said there. I know they got Devontae Wyatt, they got those other guys, but there is something said about that. I don't want to say it because we say it about the Rams, mixed need we trust because we have to, but for the sustained success of the 49ers, right, beginning at the end of the Mikowski era, right, that brief era when Holmgren came in and then they made the, Magic Mikowski had a 1989 season, 90. What was his one big year? And he hurt his shoulder, unfortunately. He got you believing in the Packers again. And then within a year or two, they brought in Favre and Mike Holmgren. And since that time, they've been a competitive NFL team. And I'll tell you, from the day that Fred Dreyer, what did he spank Delgado or Scott Hunter in the butt after he got his second sack in the Coliseum, his second safety? The Packers are kind of a joke. Brought in Bart Starr for 10 years. They had a great quarterback. And I'll say it because I really like the guy. It was Lynn Dickey. They couldn't protect him, couldn't get him a running game. He did have some great receivers, but they never really got over the hump there. And so the Packers were a dead franchise for close to 20 years. But since then, since the arrival of Holmgren, they've been a great team. So I think they're good. Maybe they're not a perfect team, but they're always, you got to trust that as much as I hate to say, they got to trust that they think they know what they're doing. And until they're proven wrong, right, you just got to go with it. There we go. Okay. Zach Tom did sign his extension. My bad, forgotten locale. Thank you very much for correcting me. Bill, the Packer pick is going to be in the high 20s. Not much value there. I've heard people say that. I think, you put a couple of picks in the 20th, the 20 to 30 slot there. I think they're all valuable. I really do. So I know it's not like it's the NBA draft where you probably get more value dropping a quarter into a candy machine in the first round than you do the NBA first round. And so I still think those picks matter, and those picks can be utilized. Maybe you can't use them to trade down, but maybe you can use them to trade picks to go back and gain more picks in the top 100. Again, that's with the assumption that the Cowboys know what they're doing, and there is no reason to assume they know what they're doing when you look at what they do. Lolcow, thank you so much for that Zach Tom update. I appreciate that. Thomas Wilson, Packers have to replace All-Pro Clinty Clark. Absolutely. Paul M., go Rams. We agree, go Rams. Michael Negretti, we have our toilet clogger in Puna Ford. And that was something I did want to hit on a little bit. That is a big deal, right? Devonta Adams, let's just say, Devonta Adams somehow looks old all of a sudden. Rams got some guys in the pipeline that can help compensate and offset that. Not in a great way, but they do, okay? But I look at Puna Ford. Puna Ford has been great, right? I mean, up to this point in his career, UDFA, got the big contract with the Rams. You just want to see this guy, right? Just be good, right? Just be good, because him being good, an upgrade from Bobby Brown, an upgrade of Ashawn Robinson, an upgrade from Jonah Williams, an upgrade from Joseph Sebastian Day, a guy that's legit toilet clogger. Oh, that could just mean the world to the Rams defense and free up those linebackers to fly a little more. I'm anxious to see it. I'm anxious to see it. And Puna Ford is, I think, a little more critical than I think most folks are thinking about. I think that's a good call there to bring his name up, Mr. Negretti. All right, let's see what else we got here. Oh, former Rams.
They come and they go, Hobbs. They come and they go.
Former Rams. Okay, former Rams safety Jordan Fuller is signed with the Falcons, reunited with Raheem Morris. Bengals have added former Rams safety Russ Yeast to the practice squad. Patriots add former Rams DT Corey Durden. Remember Corey Durden to the practice squad. Eagles bring back Britton Covey. Jaguars sign wide receiver Austin Trammell. Remember Austin Trammell was going to be the Britton Covey or the J.J. Koski or the heir apparent guy there for a while. And I'm glad the Rams moved off of him. So there you go. Other things here, Packers signed Clayton Tune. I guess he's not going to go to Canada. KC re-signs former first-round pick Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He was cut from the Saints last week, along with Cam Akers a few days before that. But Edwards-Helaire returns to the Chiefs. Bears signed former Rams tight end Nikola Kalanick, who was in the Falcons camp. He's with the Bears. Panthers signed Hendon Hooker, who was put in the street by the Lions. And Michigan running back Donovan Edwards, who went undrafted. And I like Donovan Edwards, right? He was cut by the Jets, but signed by the Taxskins. And, we got that there. And then watching Nebraska-Cincinnati last night. Did you guys see that? Did you see about Nebraska-Cincinnati? Remember there was a time in our lives, maybe some of you don't remember, that Nebraska would have had Cincinnati beaten halfway through the first quarter. And that game was competitive. It was fun to watch. And we know the Nebraska quarterback has a fetish, right? Has a fetish for Patrick Mahomes, which gets just a little too creepy for me. I think there is something kind of creepy about that. But I know some Nebraska fans, and before that pick at the end of the game, I think they were pretty scared they were going to lose there to Cincinnati. But it was a fun game to watch. Looking forward to college football this weekend. I'm kind of interested in Notre Dame and Miami. Of course, we're going to watch Ohio State and Texas, rooting for Texas all the way. I think it's at Clemson, LSU. I'm rooting for Clemson. I got a Clemson jersey, and I want to be able to put the Clemson shirt on and tell everyone that I've always been a Clemson fan. So there we go on that. Let's keep moving here. Chargers are down a long snapper right now. They got to get that fixed. Raiders. I read an article there about Amari Cooper saying he's still got gas in the tank. He's highly motivated to return to the silver and black, feeling like he was a different player then and now is more mature. So that's kind of exciting for the Raiders, right? They get Jacoby Myers, who wants a new contract, is asked to be traded, but the Raiders have said they're not trading him. They can keep him motivated, Amari Cooper, Ashton Genty in the backfield, Brock Bowers, and an offensive line of Colton Miller, Dylan Parham, Jordan Meredith, Jackson Powers Johnson, and DJ Glaze. If you keep those guys healthy, the Raiders could go 8-9 or 9-8, right? And unfortunately, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, and they could finish in last. But this is going to be the most optimistic Raider fans have been probably in 20 years. I do believe. Fog City in Frisco. Jawan Jennings is still nursing a calf injury, may not be ready for week 1. But then again, that's okay, right? 49ers are playing the Packers in the NFC Finals, according to some experts. Seahawks re-signed veteran Shaq Griffin. That means they've got depth concerns. Their front guys are great. Teak Willen and Devin Witherspoon. That Legion of Boom 2.0 is true. I think it's an absolutely legit thing. And I was surprised to hear a devoted Arizona Cardinal media guy who is always honked in favor of Kyler Murray. And, we're not Kyler Murray fans here. Bad body language, splash player, not consistent enough. But this guy's always defended Kyler Murray. And I thought it was interesting that this guy had came out and said the way everything is trending, Monty Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon, the Cardinals, this is more of a breakout year. I thought they broke out a little bit last year, but this is an they're on the ascent as the Seahawks are. 49ers are on the descent. But I was surprised to hear this media member for the Cardinals actually come out and say, this is it for Kyler Murray. Because if he doesn't move the needle this year, if they don't get into the playoffs, make some noise, be competitive, that there's not going to be an extension for him. And the what they're paying him now is not as outrageous as it was 3 years ago when you're seeing what I actually think Micah Parsons might be making more than Kyler Murray now. I have to double check that, but I think he might be. And he's definitely making more than Matthew Stafford. But that they would move off of him. The Cardinals may move off of him because this organization's gotten a lot more sound under Ossenfort and Gannon. Just something to keep an eye on there. I'm not a Cardinal fan, but they concern me. So do the Seahawks. And I've said it. I'll say it again. Rams can have a great year and still go 4-2 in the NFC West because I think, and one of those teams that could surprise them could be the 49ers with the right timing. That's where I see that. Let's see here. Okay, Michael DeGrady. The Bears signed Hooker, Pastor Joe? No, the Panthers did. Did I say the Bears? If I said the Bears, I apologize. Bears signed Nikola Kalinick, the practice squad tight end for the Rams a year ago, who was in the Falcons camp. But Hendon Hooker signed with the Panthers. Let's see here. Manuel Vasquez, Russ Yeast hit on Debo never gets old watching. I'm not questioning you, Manuel Vasquez, but was that Nick Scott's hit in the 21 playoffs where he depleted Debo? I think that might have been Nick Scott. If not, if there was another hit there, let me know, because I'm all for hits that deplete Debo Samuel. I liked Russ Yeast, double major. There just wasn't room for him. There just wasn't room for him on this roster. Let's see here. Mike Gutierrez, seems like a lot of injuries are building up for the Chargers. Absolutely. A lot of injuries. Last I heard, Quentin Johnson is still in protocol. And they didn't get in. I don't view Keenan Allen as a great addition for Justin Herbert. I just don't. Maybe they should go check out Hunter Renfrow, who got put in the street by the Panthers. Did anyone sign Hunter Renfrow? Might bring him back in, be an understudy to Ladd McConkey. Manuel Vasquez, you're 100% right. And Raider fans, I live in Vegas, and they're all talking about double-digit wins in the playoffs. That's great, right? That's great, Manuel. I want the Raiders to do well. I really do, and I think they finally, I think this is the Brady influence, right? Joe Spytek coming over from Tampa Bay. Have you seen Tampa Bay ever since the Brady era began there? They've been nothing but consistently good, right? And they transitioned from Brady to Baker Mayfield, and they're good. And this is a dark horse team that you got to keep an eye on if injuries don't derail them. Tristan Wirth got banged up and had some surgery and stuff. That could be a huge effect there. But Todd Bowles This guy has shown that he's willing to lean offense and trust his coordinators. And I'm just happy for Baker Mayfield. As a Ram fan, I'll always appreciate what he did. And so Spytech is now there in Las Vegas. Pete Carroll has always been successful. Is it enough to get past the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Broncos? Broncos are scaring me a little bit. I don't know. I think the fact they traded for Kenny Pickett says, okay, we lost Aiden O'Connell. We're not going to just throw in a third stringer from North Dakota State to be a backup to Geno Smith when he goes down. We're going to get a quarterback in there who's got some NFL experience. So that's un-Raider-like, right? That's like, hey, we're going to stay competitive. The signing of Amari Cooper, they're going to be competitive. I think they're fighting for respect. When they do the NFL Films season documentary like they do for all the teams, like the Rams of '83, and it'll be a Facenda voice. I think the one for the Raiders going into 2026 will be Season of Hope, and there'll be all that stuff, and you'll hear the Raider theme and everything. But I think for the first time, they look like they got the infrastructure right, and then they'll build up from there. That's my thinking on that. I was just in Vegas, Manuel Vasquez. I covered a football game there for high school for some friends. I did some log rolling. I'm not back doing that, but I had a really good dinner at Silverado's. Forgotten locale. I've never been high on Carroll. Felt he underachieved with the Legion of Boom and then coddled Russ too much. Seemed to divide the locker room, if I recall correctly. Well, they were consistently good. I think they were back-to-back 9-game winners in his last couple years there. They made the playoffs in 22. I think they missed it in 23, but they still won 9 games. And, what are you going to do? You got a guy who can make plays like Russ did. Russ is kind of weird, right? I think Carroll did the best he could, except for the Super Bowl when they could have won back-to-back Super Bowls, right? And, everybody makes a mistake, right? Lee's considered the greatest general in American history, but he still sent 13,000 guys across the open field there on the third day at Gettysburg, right? Everyone makes a mistake, right? And that was, not giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch, right? I was here in the RamCave, and it went crazy. Help me with that one, right? How do you sleep at night after that, right? But I can understand that. I think there was frustration there in Seattle with those veterans because they left a lot of money on the table, right? They left a lot of money on the table. Micah Gutierrez, when was the last time the Rams had 7 team captains? Was surprised to seven. You know what? I didn't even read that. Who are those guys? I didn't even read that. That's interesting. Manuel Vasquez, you're right. It was Nick Scott that had the hit on Debo. So I'm working and I'm told dinner's ready. All right, cool. Thank you, Manny Vasquez. Steve Ramirez, I'm back. Can't tell if the Rams rivalry uniforms are mostly black or dark Yankee blue. Still don't like it. I'm told by some smarter people than me they're a dark blue. If it's Yankee blue, I don't know, but it's dark blue. That's what I'm told. It looks awful, right? It looks awful. I don't like it either. Okay, real quick here. I was watching The Herd this week. And I'm just working in the office. I'm catching up because I was out of the office for a long time, kind of cleaning things up, straightening things out, getting ready to finish the new set on the other side over there for FanView that we're going to be doing Tuesdays and Thursdays. I was watching The Herd. Colin Cowherd was on vacation. And 2 things became very clear watching The Herd this week. One, J-Mac is a 4th outfielder. I'm not saying he's not professional. I'm not saying he doesn't know what to do. But at best, he's a 4th outfielder. You would never want him starting for 162 out of the year in a year, right? You want him as a 4th outfielder that you plug in here or there, right? That's clear, right? And the second thing that was clear is Rachel Nichols, who was sidekick this week, is underrated. I've never been, because I hate the NBA, so I never really paid attention too much to her outside of a few NBA comments. I used to tease her about her teeth. She got her teeth fixed. But from what I heard, this is the first time I heard her speaking on all sports. I will say this about Rachel Nichols. First time I heard her really talk about all sports, she's prepared and she knows her stuff. And I respect her. I can't, of course, ESPN kicked her to the curb because it's somebody who knows how to do her job, right? And I don't think you would have had the Barry Sanders, Shedeur Sanders with Rachel Nichols at ESPN recently if she was still there. Rachel Nichols was impressive. And let's be fair and let's be honest, right? I thought she did a really good job. I mean, she made salient points and she didn't make foolish mistakes or foolish comments, right? I didn't hear her say, at least I don't think I did. I didn't hear her say, oh, it's going to be the 49ers and Packers in the NFC title game, like J-Mac said. So anyway, there we go. Let's see. Micah Gutierrez, Stafford, makes sense. These are Ram captains. Havenstein, absolutely. Quinton Lake, that's a must. Kobe Turner are back. All right, excellent. New captains, Kyron, Landman, and Ethan Evans. All right, so pretty much every position group got a captain, right? All right, cool. Forgotten locale. Not a fan of. Is it Colin Coward? Let me know. Oh, not a fan of what? Let me know. Forgotten. Paul M. I wish the Rams would place the iconic Rams horns on the helmet instead of the current broken horns. Right. I don't get it. Yeah, I just don't. I'm not a marketing guy, but I think what would appeal to the broader base. But anyway, forgotten locale. I think alternate kits should be strictly reserved for throwback kits, like what they do with the Raiders or Tampa Bay does. But I get why they do it. The NFL would foolishly be leaving a lot of money on the table. There's so much money the NFL makes, and I understand you should make every dime you can get. I get it, but they make so much money. What I would be at a certain point, don't you want credibility? Don't you want credibility? Don't you want to build deep roots? Because these rivalry things they're coming up with, these are what I use the word ephemeral. They're temporary. They're not eternal, right? They're Esau selling his birthright for a bowl of soup, right? They're not thinking long term, and the Cowboys can do almost anything because their fans run deep, and they understand this. The Packers understand this. The Chiefs understand this. The Steelers understand this, right? Those things run deep, and you want to build that culture. And this is where the Rams, they're appealing to the West Side instead of the San Fernando and San Gabriel Valleys, and they need to embrace those old colors, those older looks. By and large, even people who weren't Ram fans, they'll come back and say those Ram unis from 73 through the 80s are some of the best uniforms that were ever in the NFL. And I understand money. I understand, but yeah, it bugs me. It bugs me.
It was a stone group, my man.
All right, we hit the 53-minute mark. I want to blow through this real quick. This day in Rams history, actually not a whole lot. I think I actually mistakenly covered it on Wednesday. So let's look at tomorrow, which is August 30th. We're not on the air, which is Saturday. On August 30th, 1977, the Rams waived Rob Scribner, undrafted free agent who made the team in 73. He was placed on the IR and never played another down for the Rams, though he had a brief tryout with the Philadelphia Eagles in 78. Connection there to Dick Vermeil, UCLA, and Rams assistant coach. So Scribner got a final shot there. Scribner, I think, became a minister, if I remember correctly. August 30th, 1978, a year later, Rams waived Al Cowlings. Now, Al Cowlings, who's known for driving the Bronco, right? He was, of course, out of USC, 5th overall in the 1970 draft. Now, think about this. In 1970, Al Cowlings is 6'5", 255, and he never really amounted to anything except being OJ's friend and Bronco driver. He joined the Rams late in the 75 season, was released in 76. After stops in Seattle and Pittsburgh, he returned to the Rams in 77 and was cut on August 30th. He finished in Frisco in 79. Guess who was there? OJ, appearing in 12 games. On August 30th, 1988, anyone remember this guy? Rams released Donald Evans. The Rams drafted Evans in the second round, 47th overall in 87. He ended up carving out 7 NFL seasons, mainly with the Steelers, playing 89 games, Starting 82 for the Steelers, had collecting 17 sacks. The Rams eventually tried to make him into a fullback, I remember at one point. And then on this day, August 30th, 1993, the Rams released the first in the line of Jack Youngblood replacements, Bill Hawkins, one of those Eric Dickerson draft picks they acquired, 21st overall, 1989 out of Miami. Played 4 seasons for the Rams, 42 games, 8 starts, 5 sacks. Bye-bye, right? They stunk. He stunk on ice, right? Born on August 30th, 1942, the late Coy Bacon, who passed away in 2008. He would have turned, 83 today? Bacon was 6'4", 270. Undrafted free agent out of Jackson State. I'm telling you, this guy should be in the Hall of Fame. Bacon was signed by the Cowboys and spent the 67 season on the Cowboys taxi squad, which means he was on that roster or with that organization when they lost the Ice Bowl. In 68, he's traded to the Rams for a 5th-round pick. As age and injuries begin to mount for the original fearsome foursome, Bacon's playing time increases. From 1970 through 72, he was a starter and made his first Pro Bowl with the Rams. In 73, with the Rams deep at defensive end, Jack Youngblood, Fred Dreyer, Bacon became expendable and was dealt, along with running back Bob Thomas, to the San Diego Chargers for John Hadle. In San Diego, he rejoined Deacon Jones, who the Rams traded to the Bolts in 72. In 76, Bacon was moved to the Bengals for Charlie Joyner. Now, Bacon played well with the Bengals, but Charlie Joyner ended up having a whole Hall of Fame career there. Bacon said to UPI, United Press International at the time, "I was never happy with the Chargers from the day I came." That season in 76 with the Bengals, including a Monday night game against the Rams, he unofficially led the NFL with 21.5 sacks, but somehow was only recognized as second-team All-Pro. In 78, Bacon was traded to the Washington Redskins, along with the very underrated Lamar Parrish for a first-round pick. And from 78 to 80, now in his late 30s, Bacon recorded unofficially double-digit sacks, 11 in 78, 13.5 in 79, and 11 in 1980. In 14 NFL seasons, Bacon played 180 games, starting 164. Via film review, he is credited with 130.5 sacks, making 3 Pro Bowls and second-team All-Pro 3 times. He finished his career in 83 with the Washington Federals of the USFL, 16 games, 7 sacks at the age of, drumroll please, 40, right? After getting involved with drugs and being shot post-career, Bacon turned his life over to God, became a Christian, spent his remaining years traveling as a speaker and working with young people. I want to see the Coy Bacon movie. I need the Coy Bacon movie. We're not on the air on Sunday, but on Sunday, August 31st, 1981, Rams waived Elvis Peacock. August 31st, 1983, Rams acquire Mark Giroux, the ultimate inside linebacker in a 3-4 from the Colts. And there we go. I think I got it all in. That was a lot of stuff there, but I love always telling the Coy Bacon story. And I know most people don't like the Coy Bacon story because it kind of slows things down, but there we go. Paul M., Rams let Jack Youngblood go a year too early. Jack was played through 84, right? And he retired late in the summer in 85 officially. Rams should have kept Bacon. But younger player at that time when the Rams moved him, he was 30. Dreyer, Youngblood were in the start of their careers. And you got a great for 1 year out of Hadle. No one knew it was going to end that fast. But there we go. Paul M., excellent show. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. And I got to get out of here because it's easier to load this on my podcast platform if I'm under an hour. So, guys, thanks for hanging out. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Forgotten. Thank you, Steve, Manny, Micah, all you guys. ESG, Bill, everybody. Tim Burns. God bless. USA Expat. Take care. We'll see you Monday.